So this is fencing footwork, part of fencing A to Z.
Take 3, get it right this time.
With Lord Wolfram von Falkenstein, Provost of the Academy of Defence. Oh, I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. Captain Wolfram von Falkenstein, Provost of the Academy of Defence, Master and Commander of the Mark Eris, and their Highnesses Rapier Champion.
Yeah, so in part 1 we talked about the linear motion, or linear nature of sport fencing. They can only go forward and back. They traditionally like to have the heels in contact, so that if, well, not in contact, but in line, so that if you did try to move back, they'd actually contact. But what they can't do, really, is turn in other directions for an opponent here, or for an opponent there, nor indeed a 180, where the back leg would sweep round, and then the front leg follow and take its place, or pivot if you're trying to do a step change at the same time. So, for example, if I have another offhand device, you know, a buckler or a dagger or something, maybe I want to bring it round forward because of what the guy in that direction is doing. So then it would be back leg comes round, right foot would just pivot, and then off leg forward. If I just wanted to do that turn and step without changing which leg's forward, then it's always the back leg that still goes round and take the position there. You don't see that in sport fencing, but we more have to do that because you don't know where your opponent is going to, you know, can be circling, can be stepping round, but not on a straight piece. And then also there's the potential for melees. And actually, mentioning melees, footwork, I suppose, does kind of cover spins. And you always see in movies and TV, you know, when D'Artagnan's favourite move in the BBC series is to sort of start twirling his sword and do a spin before he attacks, which is really foolish because he should just get stabbed in the kidney at that point. But of course, spins are useful if you're in a melee and there's opponents on all sides. So the same as with any katas in traditional martial arts, you have your reactions to each side. So we'd have, actually that's where we'd spin. Somebody's, you know, I'm engaging somebody here, somebody's attacking me from behind. Well, I want to go this way. But even when doing that, I always want it to be the back foot that moves. We do this by having the back foot describe an arc, and then the front foot adjust itself, depending on whether it needs to be still front foot or not. Isn't that it? Now, as far as stance is concerned, as said in part 1, sport fencing, we tend to have this setup, which means I don't know if anybody else, but if I do this, there's a little more tension on that knee, which is why nowadays, even in sport fencing, they tend to allow that foot to point more at an angle rather than 90 degrees, because then you can get much more balance. And likewise, if you have a gap laterally there, whereas longitudinally, it is a nice balanced stance, regardless of whether it's a really wide stance or whether it's a really narrow stance. The center of gravity is still there, and it's much more protective of the knees and the ankles. Although it's completely the opposite, of course, of in armoured fighting, where, again, center of gravity should be here between the knees, or with the knees even, except that the toes are pointing inwards, more towards where your opponent is. Good reason for that, because you're going to be in closer in armour, you know, when you're shielding stuff, you're going to be twisting more to try and get the hips cocked for throwing that shot. And if you're going to twist, this is a much better, if you've been skiing, this is a much better position, because if I try to twist that much when I've got the fencing footwork, you start feeling it here.
Not a good idea.
And on the base of your calves. So this is why you always need to stretch up even more, warm up before doing more fencing footwork. If you have two weapons, you definitely want to have that lateral as well as longitudinal gap. Because you want to be able to bring both into play, regardless of whether my opponent's here, so I want my buckler here and sword here, or the dagger here and sword here, or whether I'm fighting an opponent here, because then I still want to be able to move in any direction. Support fencer in this position, again, I know I'm going back to them, here, can leap forward fairly well, especially if he's like using the ball with the back foot. What you often see in sport fencers though is rather than push off the back foot, you often see them do this weird thing where they will go and there's a scrape. And you don't really want to be doing that because we tend to be fighting on rougher ground, so you know, there's a clump of grass there. But if you have this lateral gap as well as longitudinal, then wherever you're fighting, whether my opponent's here or here, I can step whatever direction. And again, always opening and closing the stance. Forward, left, backwards, right. And then there's the diagonals. And the way the diagonals work is, if you're only going, okay, I'll use this line here actually to demonstrate. So if that line represents the horizontal position, as it were, the lateral line, and this is forward, then when you're going forward, it's always the front foot that moves. When you're going backwards, it's always the back foot that moves first. And then you close the step with the other one. When you're going left or right, okay, it's always the left foot that goes left, the right foot that goes right. When you're going forward or backward and to either side, then there's a diagonal. So I'm going to adjust the position so that this is on a diagonal to me. So is it a diagonal to the position that I'd be facing? So that's forward, that's left, that's right, that's backward.
Okay.
So again, I want to go forward, front foot goes. I want to go backward, back foot goes. I want to go left, left foot goes. I want to go right, right foot goes. If I want to go diagonally though, then this line, sort of splitting me diagonally, determines which is which. And basically on this half of the line, the arc from my right hand back is always right foot moves. The other is always left foot moves first. My left foot, as you can see, if I want to go forward and left, right, the diagonal cuts across through here, so my left foot's on that side of it. It goes first. And I'm forward and left.
Do that again. Sorry, just catch the last bit of it.
Yeah, I was just saying, the diagonal, the line splicing me diagonally, right, from which this side, the right foot moves first, this side, the left foot moves first. That line, because it splits me through the middle diagonally, and the same would be true if it was a line going the other way, if it was like left-handed. My left foot is on this side of that line, which means, although I want to move forward and left, it's my left foot that moves first, because effectively it's moving just to my left. And no matter how far forward that is, so even if I want to cross it over, you know, over the line, I mean, it's still the left foot that moves first, because that way I'm not crossing my foot. And if I do this, see, somebody comes in here, pushes me right over. If I want to go forward and right, similarly, if I want to go forward and right, it's still the right foot that moves, yeah? But it moves diagonally. And that brings the left foot up over that line, because the line comes with it. So if I want to go back and right, it's the right foot that moves. Yeah? And if I want to go back and left, you probably have figured out this progression by now, it's the left foot. And then when it comes, as I say, to turning, the important thing is it's always the back foot will describe an arced turn, ideally. So if I want to turn around, I don't want to go like this. Because what's the point of being here? I'm not in a position to stab anybody with this hand. If I'm facing the other way, if I'm turned around, I'm not in the position to stab somebody like this because I don't have the range. And by the time I turn my feet around, they've already stabbed me. So what I've got to do is turn this foot in an arc like that.
Ooh, right.
Yeah? And that's whether you're turning just like 90 degrees or 180. Very useful in melees. Yeah, again, going back to the spins thing, again, spins useful in melees because you want to be able to spin and take somebody there, okay, there's somebody else here, somebody behind me again, okay, you get the idea, which sport fencers don't have to do, so it's a little bit more complicated for us. So those are the important things to take away are, if you have heels in line, that's not wrong. The training we have steps, and you'll see me when I take a sort of, if I try and step backwards or something, I'll usually end up with the heels in line. Although I want them to adjust back to the lateral gap. The lateral gap gives you, I think, a better range of movement in balance in whichever direction you want to go. And also it allows for rougher ground if there's, you know, a bump there or something, which obviously in a training hall or a dojo or on a piste you don't have to worry about. But that's the value of it. Ideally, if you want to get your coming forward, this issue of the ball with the back foot helps you keep your posture while still coming forward. Yeah. If you try to push off the hole with the back foot, well, it will still do it. You're still getting more. It will change which muscles you use. Because off the ball with the back foot, you're much more using the calf, and off the hole with the back foot, you're much more using the thigh as well. Or is it the other way around? Whichever. So you'll change which muscles you're using. But the disadvantage is you're likely to get that drag, or else you're likely to find yourself pulling it up, which, as I've said before in videos, can lead to a slight subconscious pulling your shoulders down and leaning your head a bit more. Going off the ball with the back foot, much quicker, much better for the posture, much better for balance. The hole with the foot is more advantageous for power. So if you're doing like a cutting exercise with a live blade or something, or if you're fighting heavy and you're trying to generate power up through the hips for a good blow, that's when you want to push with that back heel. But for actually making the shot, not so much for actually taking the step.
Okay.
Huh? And this mainly applies to single sword. You will find you have to switch feet more often if you have an offhand weapon. And again, that you can do simply what we call it a passing step, which simply means one foot passes the other. Again, much easier to do if you're not got the heels in line. Because if you've got the heels in line, you have to sort of have an arc. If you don't have the heels in line, well, they'll just go. Okay? And if you actually notice there, what happens is I'm pushing off with the ball of it, and when it gets to about here and starts to come down, I'm also bringing myself, keeping the posture up by using the ball with what is now the back foot. What was the front foot is now the back foot, and that keeps the posture up, gives it that little extra twitch of speed as well, especially if you're making an attack at the same time. And the same thing applies, as I showed earlier, if you're doing that with a turn. If you're doing that step change with a turn. You will find if you're doing cut and thrust, or use it, actually we'll do that in a separate video, right? It'll be a part 3. But you will find if you're using 2 weapons, you're also then going to need to bring in a lot more of those sideways movements. And the golden rule on sideways movements, aside from still open and close, never close and then open, is that you never cross your ankles. Ideally. You want to avoid doing that. Except in those cases where actually it's a good idea, because one of the weird things about fencing, there is no absolute. And every rule absolutely is breakable. If you're sufficiently familiar with it, you know you're breaking it, and you know what the pros and cons are, you can still use that to your advantage. So, for example, if I'm in a position where my feet are start trying to go backwards and to the right and cross my ankles. Okay, normally if I'm just doing this and not thinking about it, this would be bad, because if somebody rushes in, I'm way off balance, could even fall back, whatever. On the other hand, if I know I'm doing it to lure somebody in, then there are various options that when they start to move, they drop their guard slightly because they think they have an advantage. Then this actually gives a much springier, more surprising jump forward. Also, again, if I've come back here and crossed my ankles, and especially if this heel is starting to drift forward, somebody tries to rush in. If I've done this deliberately and know that they're going to rush in, they're going to be aiming for me here. And what happens is, or better still, if you've done a gripper, of course, what happens then is, well, okay, I'm going to cross my ankle and figure G in a gripper. But you have to know. I don't know if any of you remember Les Dawson, the comedian of the 70s and 80s, used to host Blankety Blank, and was famous for playing the piano very badly. And of course, the secret was he could actually play the piano perfectly well, because he had to learn that first in order to know how to play it the right sort of badly. So with footwork, yeah, you can break all of those rules if you're sufficiently acquainted with them and have drilled the correct moves to be confident that you know what you're doing when you're breaking them, and you're doing that for a purpose. And now we're going to pause for a word for the sponsor.
Do you have anything to say, Katerina? Eh?
Because you will now want, ideally, or I would love to see, you to go and actually drill those movements, especially the stepping in the different directions and practicing using the ball of the back foot to keep your posture up. I keep going on about that one because, as I say, you pull, your head dips. Pull back foot, your head dips. You, on the other hand, you push off the back foot, and the head doesn't dip. Right, stays where it is. So, go and drill those, and I shall be back shortly with part 3, in which we'll talk about basically the slight differences if you're using, for example, two-handed weapons, or if you're using cut and thrust, so you're actually throwing in cuts as well as your regular footwork, and maybe the odd weird